Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to Prime Time ZW, an effort brought to you by Business Times, part of the AB Communications Group. My name is Farai Mwakutuya, and over the next few weeks, we'll be bringing you some of the most topical issues under discussion, particularly with a view to finance, economics, and business in Zimbabwe. I do invite you to join me on that journey. Today's focus is on the investment climate in Zimbabwe, and we'll begin by looking at the property sector. My guest for the first segment of this program is none other than Yevai Makoni. She's the managing director of Just Property. She's a powerhouse in the real estate and property sector, multiple awards under her belt. It is a warm welcome to you. Thank you for being here, Yevai.
Thank you so much, Farai. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. Perhaps not as good as people in the property sector as we are led to understand. Everyone says that it's booming. Is that indeed the state of affairs?
Yes, that's the state of affairs. Mm-hmm. There are emerging suburbs. I'm sure you've noticed new suburbs are coming in. We've got cluster housing. We've got gated communities, sustainable developments coming in. It is indeed booming.
All right. How much of that would you say is being driven by fundamentals? Is it speculative? Because I've heard some people saying, look, people are buying property to speculate, or is it genuine homeowners who are saving up and getting a property?
It's a combination. We have already had people who buy for speculative purposes even before now. People always buy for speculative purposes, and there are others who save and genuinely wants to own a home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And over the last perhaps 12, 24 months, what would you say are the key trends that you've observed sitting where you sit? What is driving this? Is it diaspora? Is it locals? What are the dynamics?
Diaspora is coming in very handy in the property market. They are buying properties, and we have also locals buying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'll ask you this question. Often people say this is $1 million question, and perhaps this is a multi-million-dollar question, because we are seeing properties that are going for over $1 million in this market. Are we pricing these? Are these realistic prices we're seeing? A lot of people say that our real estate sector, our properties are overpriced. What's your take?
Well, in our real estate market, prices are determined by supply and demand. Mm-hmm. So the number of buyers we have in the market versus the properties on the market will always determine the pricing. Currently, we are in a buyer's market. We have very few buyers and surplus properties on the market. So our prices are slowly going down. Mm-hmm. There was a time when it went up, when there were too few properties in the market and a lot of buyers. Mm-hmm. So the pricing is determined by a willing buyer, willing seller.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Again, this talk of some of our prices may not be in sync is based on the fact that comparatively, people say if you have $200,000, for instance, in Zimbabwe, and you have the similar amount of money in South Africa, what you're getting is much, much better in South Africa, for example. What do you have to say to that?
That's true. But you also have to consider the rentals. The properties in South Africa will be cheaper. Same will be the rentals, and the return on investment will be lower if you buy in South Africa, because the rentals will also be lower. So yes, pricing in South Africa is on a lower side than in Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. But if you compare with UK, I was talking with one of my clients in the UK. They are buying a £400,000 property, and she was saying the same property, she thinks here in Zimbabwe they could buy it at half the price.
Oh, wow. Interesting. We also know that obviously currency issues have an impact on people's capacity to buy. When you've looked at the past, I think obviously now we have some stability, but previously when you looked at the currency volatility, how did that affect people's buying patterns, and what's the scenario like now?
Well, the buying patterns are affected by the currency because home owners are skeptical about currency. They are worried, if I dispose of my property, will I not be stuck with an irrelevant currency? Mm-hmm. So if the currency is not stable, people hold on to their properties and would not want to sell. Mm-hmm. But with some confidence in the currency, which is what is happening now. People are coming up with properties. I think that explains the surplus of properties in the market.
Surplus of properties in the market. And I suppose now, when we go into the realm of, if I'm an investor, maybe not put myself in the shoes of investor first, but if I'm an individual, and I'm an investor in a small way, perhaps not big, but that is an investment that I want to make.
Yes.
To buy something that's already ready or to build, what makes more sense? Because I think that's something people often grapple with. What makes more sense in our market?
Well, it depends with preferences. You can buy something that is already built, and if you want to stay, you can stay. If you prefer a new house, it's cheaper actually to build, to buy a stand and build. Probably you build on your own terms, unlike buying a built-up property already, because we are putting you under pressure to put together 150,000, for example, to buy a built-up property. Unlike when you buy a stand maybe for 40,000, then you start buying bricks, you buy cement, you buy roofing material. So you'll be doing it on your own terms.
The concern, and this is a very personal concern, is when you build, and I think as you said, there are a lot of developments that are coming up. Will they ever have the quality, for lack of a better term, the aesthetics, to be as established as some of the neighborhoods that we have, Mount Pleasant, Borrowdale, for instance? Some of these places, the roads aren't great, the services aren't there. Will they ever get to that or match that level? Because I think that's something that as someone who wants to invest, you're thinking of that. Will this property I'm buying in a new development ever be the standard or quality? Will my new neighborhood ever be a Mount Pleasant or a Borrowdale or a Greendale?
Well, that one depends on developers.
Yeah.
Some developers are doing a good job, better than Mount Pleasant or Borrowdale, bringing in sustainable developments, green buildings. They'll be actually better than the Mount Pleasant. And I think of late you have seen people are demolishing and renovating or putting clusters on those Mount Pleasant properties. So it depends with the developer. Some of them are doing great jobs.
When you mention clusters, relatively a new concept here in Zimbabwe. Do you see it being sustained, or are you going to see more of these developments going forward?
We will see more of this, and the demand for clusters is very high because of the sense of community. Previously, one family was staying on 4,000 square meters. Now we are bringing in maybe 8 units. So you bring in security, green buildings. You're bringing in biodigesters, for example, and solar energy. So there is a sense of security, a sense of community that comes with those clusters, and the demand is very high. So if we are going to be using the sustainable development infrastructure, for example, the biodigesters, it will be sustainable. But if we want to use the infrastructure that was there, for example, the sewer system and the water system, it won't sustain.
It will be overrun, certainly.
It will be overrun.
Because you're having now 8 units in a place that was meant to accommodate just one.
One family, yes.
Security, sense of community, do you think that they now prevail over? Because I think what informed the big spaces in the past is I want my privacy. I want my 2,000 square meters. I want a garden for my kids to run in, to grow my chibage, my tomatoes, to have a pool and that sort of thing. Those sort of characteristics and demands, do you think, security and community are prevailing over those?
Yes. Security is a major one. Most people, when they are buying, they are looking at security. When I travel, I just want to lock my door and travel without the worry that somebody will break into my house. So security and a sense of community is prevailing over having a big garden. And if you're the owner, it's more income for you.
Okay. You've just talked about owner now. I think that then puts us into the realm, and I'm not sure to what extent you can speak about this because it's still quite relatively new. We understand that the taxman, Zimra, now wants rental tax.
Yes.
Could you tell us about who's affected by that? Anyone who is renting out their property. So if I have a house and I live there and I'm renting out a cottage or a room in the back, am I subject to that?
My understanding was so far it is affecting the commercial.
Okay.
The commercial rentals, yes.
Okay.
So if it's one property that you are renting out, I don't think you'll be affected. But if you are renting out more than one, you are a commercial rental landlord. And commercial buildings, obviously, those ones are attracting tax.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Finance is something that, in a discussion, and I've had an opportunity to attend quite a number of conferences and exhibitions around property, real estate, and access to finance is something that's always spoken about, because unfortunately in this country, we don't have a thriving mortgage market, which would really drive our property market exponentially. Do you see that changing? I know one of the issues has always been, or has recently been, this deadline for the de-dollarization 2030, and so that has affected the discussion a bit. But as we hear more and more that it's not going to be date bound, it's going to be about conditions, do you think that will unlock more finance?
It will unlock more finance. Recently, I've had clients coming in with mortgages. They said banks are offering mortgages. So I'm sure we are slowly getting there.
And when you have this sort of discussion with banks, are they also, do you get the sense that they are willing to be more accommodative, for lack of a better term?
I think they are trading with caution.
Yeah.
They are accommodative. I'm sure it's not yet as what we want it to be. Everyone is trading with caution, just looking at the economy and what is happening. But they are accommodative in a way.
Okay. I want to ask you a couple of more questions before we wrap up. And you've spoken quite a bit about sustainability, which I think clearly must be a passion of yours, because you've mentioned it quite a bit. But it is critically important, particularly in this sector, because we're going to live in these environments.
Yes.
We know about green buildings. We know that biodigesters, for instance, that you've spoken about. Would we be able to increase and encourage more home ownership, more construction, more real estate, if we're able to change the bylaws so that we don't necessarily need to keep using brick and mortar as we do? Because that's a huge expense. So I'm talking here about innovating around building materials and how we go about building. Is that a discussion that you think we're ready to have and should be having?
I'm sure we are ready to have such a discussion. And if you look at most developers, they are adopting the sustainable buildings. I've seen quite a number of biodigesters in Mount Pleasant. So it means people are ready to adopt modern technology, cheaper ways of building. People are ready.
It's the bylaws perhaps that need to catch up, because they are still very restrictive.
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk a bit now. I mean, we've spoken quite a bit about commercial and real estate, so residential, commercial. On the commercial side, I'm not sure to what extent you are involved or engaged in that. But when we look at that side of things, how is that going? Are there developments? And a lot of the time when we see a development or a renovation, often it's going to be partitioned shops and so-called malls. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I think partitioned shops are influenced by SMEs. A lot of us are becoming indigenous, but we cannot afford to rent a whole wing, to rent a very big space. So most clients are coming in as smaller business units. So there's no point in keeping the big space. That's why they are partitioning. Yes, and it's growing as well, because people want to formalize their business somehow. So they want a space where they can just put an office, a printer, and start operating formally. So there is a market for those people who would want the partitioned spaces.
How sustainable is that, though? Because I'm imagining you used to be one big shop. Now you're putting in 20 different units there, 20 different tenants. You're having to deal with all that. Is that a convenience, and just convenience and sustainability?
It's not. It's not. And dealing with 20 20 tenants is different from dealing with
Just
one
one,
tenant,
yeah.
obviously. And most of the business people, the small business owners, they are closing.
Yeah, every month,
Every
yeah.
month you have got people going out. You are looking for more people to come in. Some grow. When you grow, obviously you would need to move from the small cubicle to a bigger space. So it's not really sustainable. It's just something that we can do now, but there is definitely need to create something that is sustainable.
So if someone came into your office and said, "Look, I've got some money. I want to invest in property," where would you tell them to put that money? What sort of investment would you ask them to put it in?
I would advise you to do a mixed use building, which accommodates. If it's a complex, it can be a mixed use, which accommodates shops, which accommodates offices, which accommodates everything in that space.
Am I better off doing that, or perhaps buying a piece of land in a peri-urban area and speculating that perhaps? So I'll give an example. Instead of doing the mixed use, saying, okay, I'm going to put my money in Koromonzi, for example, because I anticipate as we urbanize and the sprawl continues, we are now Rua, eventually as we head towards Marondera, perhaps that piece of land, which I can get cheap now, might be worth a bit more in a few years. How do you balance that?
Yeah, definitely it will be worth much more in a few years to come. But it depends now on how much you have. Are you willing to tie down the capital in that piece of land, waiting for those few years for it to appreciate? Or you can just dive in to a mixed use and start getting rentals. So what are your options? Do you just want somewhere where you can just put your money and wait for it to grow, or you can get some returns along the way?
Interesting. I mean, yeah, certainly I think these are obviously discussions that you can have in more intimate detail with clients as they come through. Something else that I'm also seeing that is becoming quite, that is emerging now, certainly in Harare, in certain sections of Harare, is things like warehousing and storage. Again, what are your thoughts on that? Do you see that as a growing area? Or there will be potential in that?
There is a lot of potential, especially if our industry grows or wakes up.
It's I know.
It is waking
even
up.
more, as it becomes
so
more.
if we do even better than what was before, definitely that area is growing.
So, one final question before we wrap up. Well, two more, but let me ask you this. Again, tied to the question that I asked about where should I put my money. Depending on who you speak to, some people will say there's no point in buying a house for yourself because it becomes a non-performing asset. It doesn't give you any return. Some people say if you buy a house or buy a flat, it'll take you years to get the return the money you've put in, so perhaps you should be putting that money somewhere else. What is your view? What is your best advice? Should I be buying a house for myself, or maybe what would you say is the wisest, given the environment we're in?
Firstly, your house that you stay in is not an investment. You would need to look for resources to look after that house. That's your house for you to stay. But a house that you're going to put a tenant and start getting rentals, that would be an investment. And instead of buying yourself a house and looking at the return on investment, you can actually mortgage the house and capitalize maybe another venture. It's a stable way of investing. You're not worried about current crashes. Tikangochinja tikaenda kumarands, the property will be.
It will still be.
It will still be sold in rands. If we are in Zim-dollar, we'll go to Zim-dollar. If it's USD, so your property, it preserves the value
Of that property.
more than other investments, which are more risky. So it's wiser to put your money in a property.
Okay. But perhaps the return may not be as quick. I mean, you may not recoup your money as quickly, but you are getting
Exactly. But you can get a mortgage where you can, if you want to reinvest, if you want money to reinvest into other businesses, mortgage your property, reinvest, and pay back the mortgage.
When I was growing up, I used to walk to school through the avenues, and those were pristine sort of properties dream sort of places you wanted to live in because they were really quality villas and garden flats and those sort of things. Today, though, some of them, you see a lot of broken windows, unkempt, and those sort of things. What is the problem there? Is it the owners association? And can we ever revitalize those places again to look as pristine as they did back in the day? What's your view on that sector?
There is potential for revitalization, though it's a combination of issues. With flats, homeowners, they start fighting. Some people say we don't want to pay the levies because they have been misused, and that's where we come in as real estate agents. If you get a professional person to manage the property, they'll make sure renovations are done timelessly. They'll make sure what needs to be done has been done. And like when you always want to come together and say, let's put a ball, let's put this, let's put that, people will always be fighting. But you need to find a neutral person to come in and put sanity to the buildings. And some landlords, unfortunately, they don't want to renovate their properties, especially if they are tenants. They will just say, I want my rental, all of it. They collect the rental, they don't care about renovating the flat.
But the capacity to keep earning that sort of rental depends on how
the property is kept.
Airbnb versus monthly rental. I was having a discussion recently actually with an aunt of mine who has a rental property, but her daughter is pressuring to say, let's turn it into an Airbnb.
Well, Airbnb work is a bit seasonal. Here in Harare, when you have diasporans coming back to holiday like April, they would be looking for those. But there are times when it will go dry when there are no tenants. Monthly rental ensures that you have consistent income every month, but Airbnbs, they are seasonal. So now you weigh the options and the administration that is involved and the costs involved with Airbnbs.
Over the next 3 to 5 years, what's your outlook in terms of real estate and property? And this is across the board, residential and commercial as well. Where do you see things going?
I'm sure with the current stability, we will be, with the banks coming in, we are also anticipating banks will be coming in full board with mortgages. So the market will be booming.
Indeed. Well, we look forward to that boom and to inviting you back to share some of the milestones on that journey. Yevai Makoni, Managing Director, Just Property. It's been great speaking to you.
Thank you so much, Farai.
Fantastic. That was my discussion with Yevai. Stay tuned for more coming your way here on Prime Time ZW, brought to you by Business Times.